George comes up to me and Gooby and Sabes and says, I'm not drinking any water or any Gatorade the whole game. I'm going to be the first one out of the dugout and the first one back in the dugout in between innings. And we look at each other, we look at George and go, George, you're crazy. It's 98 degrees. You're going to pass out. You're going to die. He goes, I don't care. I want that first beer to taste so good after the game. I got to do this.
Welcome to the latest drop of the MLB Network Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Vasgersian, and our guest is in a very small baseball club. It's rare company to have won a World Series as a player, pitched 15 years in the Grande Ligas, then managed for 2 decades, and been a manager of the year in that capacity as well. Bud Black checks all those boxes. Great to have Buddy with us on the podcast today. Hello, left-hander. Nice to see you. Here we go.
Well, Matt, great to be on. This is good stuff. I'm excited to be on with you guys on the podcast and to talk baseball and obviously reconnect with you, which is always a great thing, and I hope to do it as often as possible.
Yeah, man, and I want to start with what's happening with you right now because, look, 9 years managing in San Diego to great success, 9 years in Denver. You had some good teams there and took the Rockies to the postseason. But you're back now in an advisory capacity, which is, I think, what we should all aspire towards someday, as a front office advisor back with the Padres. Tell us how this come about, and what are you going to be doing?
Well, it's a great fit for me, obviously living here and in my investment, like you mentioned, for so many years with the Padres. But, I got to know AJ right when he was hired in 2014. And, he made a splash right off the bat, through that winter. So I got to know him. And then, the change came in the middle of the summer in 2015. And AJ and the club went a different direction with the manager. But fast forward, through the years, I would see AJ and I would see Padre people at either Coors Field or at Petco or at winter meetings. And there was always a good relationship there. So, when I got let go by the Rockies, one of the first calls I got was from AJ. And, just sort of basically said, hey, when you come up for air, give me a call. Let's talk about a few things. And it sort of steamrolled from there as the summer went on and into the fall, just some, brief conversations and a couple meetings as when the season ended over breakfast and a lunch. And, we both decided it'd be a good fit for me to come back. So, again, the AJ and I connection goes back a little bit, even though we didn't work together a ton when he first got hired, but, it's always been there. I think as far as the role, it's sort of wide compassing, right, in this position, and it could be fluid in a lot of ways, but for the most part, evaluation, going into our minor league system, evaluating our players, evaluating our staff, being around the big league club as well, doing the same thing, mixing with the new coaching staff there, the new manager, Craig Stammen, getting to know, the staff, in San Diego, strength and conditioning guys, trainers, all those things, and just be a part of that and be a sounding board for all those guys, and being a sounding board for AJ and Josh Stein and the baseball ops department. And I'm sure there'll be a little bit on the amateur draft side as well, right? Maybe going to go see a pitcher or two along the way to help Chris Kemp and, all the amateur scouts and all the hard work that those guys do. So probably those 3 things, Matt, minor league side, big league side, and a little bit of amateur stuff.
I know how good you are as a talent evaluator. I know how passionate you are about that craft, and boy, they couldn't have picked anybody better. So let's keep working kind of reverse chronological here, talking about the new hire, the new role with the Padres. Let's go back to the end of the run with the Rocks, because those of us on the outside, not in Denver, not attached to the Colorado organization, we got news of your being relieved of your duties. We're like, ugh, not his fault. What kind of scapegoat game are we playing here? And I know you're a diplomatic guy, I know you have nothing but good memories from your days in Denver. But what exactly were they expecting you to do with what you had that you hadn't done before, that everybody else hadn't thought of? What went wrong there at the end?
Well, I don't think it was just one thing that went wrong. I think that, we transitioned, from, my first couple years to a team that had, a number of veteran players who were very solid and productive. And then over time, we transitioned into a younger group, right? And it never really came out that we were rebuilding or rebooting or anything like that. We always felt as though, our young players are going to be able to, to do it and perform. And and unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. But it wasn't from lack of effort from, the owner, the baseball ops department, the coaching staff, the minor league department. We just couldn't get, enough production from all our players, both on the pitching side and the hitting side. So, ultimately, when those things happen, changes occur. And, I know this, that, the respect that I think both ways, that I have for them, and maybe for the job that I did over time is, was there. But it was really time for a change for the Rockies in a lot of ways. So again, I think there's some talent there to build upon. And I'm looking forward to watching it, from afar, because I'm close to a lot of those people still there. And I hope that there is a turnaround. But, as you know, Matt, these things don't last forever in these positions. We saw it here in the NFL most recently with a lot of good head coaches that it was time to move on. I remember one thing. Dusty Baker told me, and Dusty obviously, and Dusty and I are close, and I can't remember exactly when he told me this, but he said that he was talking to Bill Walsh about coaching, head coaching, and messaging. And Bill Walsh told Dusty that he said, Dusty, I think a head coach, that message lasts, if you're good, that message lasts 7, 8, 9 years of really of holding the team. And I always remembered that. So, I think about that often when I see changes, in our profession. What Bill Walsh always thought.
That's funny you lay out that timeline on that message from Bill Walsh to Dusty to you, because you lasted about a decade in both of your managerial stops, which is just amazing staying power in not just baseball but pro sports. 9 years in San Diego, 9 years in Denver. I want to ask you about the one particular year in San Diego, and I'm just an observer here, but I don't know that anybody could have done a better job than what you did with the 2010 Padres, taking a team all the way into the final day of the regular season. And with all due respect, this was not the 27 Yankees we were talking about here. You won on the margins before everybody was talking about winning in the margins. Take us back to that year, the end of that season, specifically that series in San Francisco. And do you think that was your best managerial job in 2 decades?
I mean, when you talk about, your favorite years, what stands out, a couple things. Obviously, winning a World Series in '85 is the best, for all players to be able to win a World Series. The year we won in Anaheim, 2002, what a great year that was. And, the friendships and the relationships I had with those guys, with Soch and Joe Madden and Renicky and Mickey Hatcher and the players was great. But 2010, Matty, you're right. One of my favorite teams of all time. I mean, God, you look at that roster and you look at the guys, Eckstein, Jerry Hairston, Tony Gwynn Jr., Denorfia, Venable, Headley, Hunley, Torrey Alba, John Garland, Chris Young, Kevin Correa, Tim. Go on. Just a guys that that really fought. And it's funny when you think back. We just started playing, and we won some good games. We had a good closer. We had a good bullpen. It was great. The coaching staff did a good job, but it's funny what momentum and confidence can do, and when you pitch well. And that was the key. But what a great year! I just remember, the group and sort of the quiet, sort of under the radar confidence that the guys had, even though there wasn't a lot of star power. On the team, we had Adrian, who was, obviously a superstar, but the group itself. That was really the sum is greater than all of its parts, as you know. That typifies it. What a fun team that was. What a fun team to manage. Really unselfish. Really stood behind everything we did as a coaching staff, and a really, really good group. And our front office was great. Jed, and just really, really good stuff.
You mentioned the Royals days, of course. Good place for us to take our first break. When we come back with Buddy, we're going to talk about his playing days, winning a World Series in the mid-'80s on AstroTurf at Kauffman, pitching for the Gigantes and Roger Craig, some hum baby, and some fun with Bud Black as we continue on the MLB Network Podcast. Buddy Black was in his 5th year in the big leagues in 1985, back-to-back years where he was over 200 innings, and it all culminated in this moment, a World Series title. The all-AstroTurf series of 1985. The Royals were kings of the baseball world, and as Buddy mentioned to us before the commercial, doesn't get any better than that. I know that this is a group that's still really close, Bud, that you're still tight with so many of the members of that 85 squad. How frequently do you have contact with those guys?
Matty, quite often. I talked to George just the other day. I saw the piece with you and Gooby. Excuse me, last week or a couple weeks ago when Gooby was on with you guys, and I texted him, Charlie Leibrandt, Jamie Quirk. What was cool this summer, we had the 40-year reunion, and almost everybody came back. It was awesome, but it was great to see everybody. When you get in those environments, it's like you turn back the clock and like everything's the same. It's like the conversations were easy. There was a lot of reminiscing, but it was really great to see all those guys. But you're right. It was a really close team that to this day we still keep in contact with each other. I run into Sabes often, so it's fantastic. It's really, really good stuff.
I know you're asked about this a lot, but there's so much tread on your Royals tires here because you had good years in Cleveland. You pitched with the Giants, bounced around a little bit with some other teams, but those were the big three in your career. Giving up Reggie's 500th homer the year before the World Series win in '84. I know you've told this story a million times, but for new viewers that haven't heard, he's sitting on 499, right, when you're facing him that night. Walk us through that and the pre and the post when Reggie took that big swing.
Well, it was a big series, that weekend. There it is right there. It was a 3-1 or 3-2 fastball right there. I think it was either the 7th or the 8th inning. We had the lead, pretty handily. We won the game, but it was a big series against the Angels. I know Gooby and Sabes were pitching the next 2 days as rookies. They didn't want to give it up. Not that I tried to give it up, but, I'm sort of happy it was me instead of those guys. But what was cool about it was when Reggie rounded third base, and, the crowd was going crazy. He looked at me and I was looking at him, and he tipped his cap, and I tipped my cap back to him, knowing that we were going to be connected. for forever as far as his career goes anyway. But I thought that was pretty cool that he acknowledged me as he rounded third base.
That is cool. I'm just looking at those highlights and talking to you about the Kansas City days, Cleveland, San Francisco. Like, you played for the kind of manager that, quite frankly, isn't really around in the game anymore. I'm talking about, Dick Hauser, Roger Craig, guys like that I'm sure made a massive impact on you. How do we rationalize going from the old school dirt and the spikes guys like that to the newer manager of the current game who is not like that? And I'm not saying better or worse, but there's been a change in that character. How do you account for that, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you're right. It's the game itself is the same, basically, right? But there's a lot now that goes into managing that I'm sure that managers back then obviously didn't have to do. Handling everything outside of the game and the players now is really expanded. What you mentioned earlier about the impact that that Dick had on me, that Roger Craig had on me, that Dusty had on me, that John McNamara had on me, that Mike Scioscia had on me, set the stage for me managing. But what never changes is the relationship that the manager has with players. I think that, that still was critical back then, and it's critical today, which I think is, the main part of managing, how to handle people. And as a manager, back then, you were given the players from the front office, and that was your responsibility. That's the thing that has changed a little bit now. I think there's, a lot of people who are part of that handling of players. And I think that in a lot of ways it's a good thing, because, players are a little different than they were, a generation ago. So with that, the staff has increased, tenfold from what old-time managers had, when you had a pitching coach, a hitting coach, third base coach, first base coach, and that was about it, one trainer. And now the clubhouse is filled with so many people and so many resources that are available to players and are available to coaches. So, handling all that, is a big part of today's manager.
Gosh, and it's got to be such a tough balance. And I find myself thinking about this whenever you hear of a rookie manager getting an opportunity in the big leagues. The very fine line between presenting yourself as an authoritarian figure, yet still having enough 2000s kind of touchy-feeliness in you to where you make sure you text the guy the day before that he's not going to be in the lineup the following game. That's got to be a very difficult balance to strike.
Yeah, it is. And I think it takes, obviously the right person, to manage. Not anybody can manage, as you know. So, you have to be equipped in so many skills, outside of just running a game, running a pitching staff, running a ball club. Mm. So, the overall wherewithal and the aptitude and the personality of the manager is so important to be able to handle all of that. Right? To be able to have those skills, the personal skills, the intelligence to handle all facets of the organizations, because it's required now. It's required.
I think of our mutual friend, Larry Boa, who likes to tell stories about interviewing for various managerial jobs in his career and being asked a question by a very young front office interviewer. How would you respond if we were to present you with that night's starting lineup? And Bo's response was some version of this. I'd respond by saying, you got the wrong guy in this interview. I'm out. And he's just picked up his stuff and left. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about here. Time for a quick break. And on the other side, back with more of the MLB Network Podcast. One of the things you always hear about Buddy Black in baseball circles, and he's occupied said circles for about 35, 40 years, is that he's one of the funnier guys out there. So, Buddy, we're going to put the funny to test here, because I know that you take joy in other funny people, and you've been around a lot of them in your day. So we just kind of put together a rather arbitrary list of figures in your baseball past, some as a manager, some as a teammate, etc., for you to just kind of open up and give us a funny anecdote about a few of them. And I'm going to start you specifically with George Brett. Give me some George Brett fun.
There's a few about George, but I love this. I love this story. We're in Baltimore, August, 98 degrees, humid as hell. George comes up to me and Gooby and Sabes and says, I'm not drinking any water or any Gatorade the whole game. I'm going to be the first one out of the dugout and the first one back in the dugout in between innings. And we look at each other, we look at George and go, George, you're crazy. It's 98 degrees. You're going to pass out. You're going to die. He goes, I don't care. I want that first beer to taste so good after the game. I got to do this. And George would do that. He would do that stuff again to challenge himself. But sure enough, I mean, by the third inning, we're cheering him on. You know, he's gotten a couple hits. We're having a good game. We won the game. And but for him to say that and do it, you know, it was smoking hot. But he wanted that first beer to taste so damn good after the game in the clubhouse. And we might even had some Bo Brooks crabs afterwards in the old municipal stadium on the picnic tables from Freddie Tyler. It was so great.
True to his word, and I'm sure he went out there, you know, 3 knocks, 8, 9 total bases, drove in a couple runs, and didn't need any liquid in him at all. He's one of one from everything I've been told about his playing days. All right, I'm going to run down the list again.
There's a couple more, but
by all means, give us another one about George.
There's another one. We're in Detroit. We had a Saturday night game in Detroit, and we went out after the game. We went to Lendell's, little place right down the road from Tiger Stadium, and had great cheeseburgers. And, you know, we had a couple beers, and, you know, we got to talking, and, you know, before you know it, it's late, and, you know, we're saying, you know, I'm same group, you know, Gooby, Sabes, a couple, Charlie, you know, we're not pitching the next day, but George is playing. And so George, late night, and then it became a little later night. We went back to the hotel, became a later night. And, you know, we went to bed late, like late. George gets up in the morning, first guy at the ballpark, you know, rough, Milt Wilcox throwing. He has like 2 or 3 homers. You know, I mean, that's, you know, old school type stuff, but it's real. I mean, George, he sort of willed himself into a couple homers off Milt Wilcox.
What a motor he must have had, man. Nobody could do that today, do what he did, you know, running around after a game and still be as good as he was.
Yeah, right.
All right, here's the list again. Give me something else here on this group of players. A lot of personalities on your Giants teams. I would imagine not many bigger than Will Clark.
I always liked Will. This is a good one from Will. And Will, I love Will. Will's great. What a great hitter, great player. You know, never lacked for confidence. And I remember we were facing Greg Maddux. And Maddux, sinker, slider, little cutter. So and he's, you know, he's carving us up on a day game in Candlestick. And I remember, you know, Will got jammed with a pitch and came back into the dugout, and I can't really imitate Will's voice, but he came back in that high-pitched voice and said, "Guys, do you believe that? I'm the only guy that Maddux throws a backup cutter to. all you guys get cutters and sinkers and sliders. I get all those too, but he throws me a backup cutter. And we're going, Will, he didn't try to throw a backup cutter. He threw a bad pitch and you got jammed. But the beauty about Will was that he always kept his confidence. He was wonderful. And he was, such a good teammate. But there's another one for Will. The wind was blowing out. I remember one day, and Will hit a deep drive, and it stayed in the park. Off the bat, I think we all thought it was going to be a homer because the wind was blowing straight out at Candlestick, and Will came back in the dugout and said, "Do you believe that? The wind shifted during my at-bat and blew straight in when I was hitting? That's incredible. How did the wind shift all of a sudden when I was hitting?" So he was so good.
I would imagine you got the same kind of stories about Jeff Brantley as a staff mate back then. Jeff's a pretty funny guy, cowboy, funny wordsmith.
He loved chicken. I don't think he loved it to the extent that Wade Boggs did. But JB ate a lot of chicken, and he would crush chicken like down to the bone. I mean, there was nothing. He ate everything. I mean, all was left was the bone. It'd be like you'd see a carcass of a half a chicken or a chicken leg, but he would eat everything off it. Usually, like when you eat a drumstick or you eat a wing, there's still some skin and some meat on it. But man, he ate everything.
Gristle, all the muscle, tissue, all that stuff.
Hey, he was a big chicken eater.
Give me. I'm gonna narrow down the list a little bit more. I want to get 2 younger guys and 2 older guys for another story. Julio Franco, Tom Candiotti, Charlie Blackmon, Matt Latos.
Latos. You talked about the. I don't know whether this is a funny story or not. But I think all of us who were around, we played that series against the Giants in 2010. I think that this might be, you might have even heard this story, Matty. He had a few tattoos, which, a lot of young players have. But, on this, particular Saturday night in San Francisco, leading up to game 162, we were tied with the Giants, and Matt was pitching Sunday afternoon against the Giants, for the division. For
the division, yeah.
And a couple things had to happen, right? That the Braves were playing, and there were some situations there, but it was a big game for the division, us against the Giants. So we had a Saturday day game in San Fran, and the Sunday game that Latos was pitching. So game over Saturday. Here comes the final game on Sunday. So I get to the clubhouse early, and a couple guys come rolling in. They say, "Hey, buddy, did you hear about Latos last night?" And I go, "Oh no, what happened? Is he okay?" They go, "Yeah, he's fine, but he's got a brand new tattoo on his right shoulder." I go, "What?" He goes, "He's got a tattoo last night?" They go, "Yeah." And I go, I don't know much about tattoos. I go, "That's not a great thing, is it, to get it on your throwing arm? But the day you're, like the next day?" They go, "Well, not really." But so now I'm going, "Oh no, our starting pitcher has had a bunch of needles in his arm 12 hours ago, whatever." And I'm going, okay. So nothing you can do about it now. So Matt comes in, I bring him in my office, and I go, "Matt, how you doing?" He goes, "Buddy, I'm doing great." I go, "How's your shoulder?" He goes, "My arm feels great." I go, I hear you got a new tattoo." So he lifts up his sleeve, and there's a bunch of oil on it and stuff on it, and he's going, "Yeah, I got a tattoo last night." I go, Is that okay?" He goes, "I think so." I go, "Couldn't you wait until like tomorrow, like the next day or next week or when the season's over?"
He was a great character, man. I always loved talking to Matt.
He goes, "I can pitch. I'm fine." So anyhow, and actually he pitched pretty well. We had Jonathan Sanchez pitched great.
Yeah.
We got beat 3-0, uh, but that one sort of sent a little ripple through the
A
clubhouse.
little panic, I'm sure. One last story. We got time for one more. Charlie Blackmon, Tom Candiotti, Gooby, Julio Franco, Mike Scioscia.
Well, this is sort of a combo. I love this. Was sort of funny. We were we're in Anaheim with our group, Soch and Joe and Mickey and Ronnie, and we're really, really close staff, really great staff. And Mickey and Mike go way back, right? They go back to A-ball in the Midwest League,
right?
So they're super close. And Mickey's the hitting coach, for us, and Mike, over time would like to put the squeeze bunt on, right? And worked, successful more often than not, with the right guys. But there was this particular run of unsuccessful squeeze bunts, and so Mike put the squeeze on this one game late in the game, and it unsuccessful. And Mickey went berserk in the dugout, and had to go down the tunnel and was yelling up at Mike. I can't obviously tell you what he was yelling back up at Mike, but he was like killing Mike on squeeze bunts. And Joe and I and we had to go down and calm Mickey down, and but Mike handled it great and goes, hey, Mick, something like it, Mick, it was really, really funny how post game Mike handled it so good with Mickey, just because of their relationship. But I always remember that Mickey just went off on the unsuccessful squeeze bunt.
Video we'll try to find. We have access to that kind of stuff. But
God, there's got to be. I mean, Charlie's. I mean, when you talk about some of my favorite players, Matty, Charlie is, is right there at the top of the list of teammates that I had when I was a player. The guys in Anaheim, the guys in San Diego, the guys in Colorado. I mean, Charlie's in the top 5 of one of my favorites.
Authentic, right? Like the beard, the Jeep, all that stuff was really him. Zero shtick involved with that.
Yeah. Yes. God, something. Something that really stands out. That's funny. I can't. I mean, we had so many great interactions. I used to throw BP to him. Excuse me. I used to throw BP to him when there was a left-handed starter, for, the first, 6-7 years. And then we had one of our advanced scout who was left-handed, and he used to do it, with Charlie. But, those damn it.
You get in there and jam them?
Yeah.
You make them uncomfortable?
Those moments with Charlie were wonderful. Our time in the cage together, throwing BP. I'd try to throw him sliders and curveballs and fastballs, and he would, have me try to, mix it up and get him. But, those were great moments for me with Charlie, because it was just him and I in the cage. And, I thought that was really special for me to be able in that moment to help Charlie. But he was, such a great manager's dream, right? Didn't have to worry about him, any of that. But he was great. But I do remember when we were in Detroit when he told me he was going to shut it down. He came in and he sat down and he goes, hey buddy, I want to talk to you. And he was, he's real, he's serious but funny at the same time. And I'm paraphrasing a little bit. He goes, and I didn't know I had a feeling this might be the talk. I didn't know for sure, but he's got a unique way about him when he's serious, but he can joke along at the same time. But he came in and he started talking about baseball and started going off on a few things. But then he said, "I'm done." I go, "What do you mean you're done?" He goes, I think this is my last year." But I do specifically remember that moment. I know it's not real funny, but it was cool because I think he told his parents. I was one of the first guys that he told. But he also said, "Hey, don't tell anybody yet." I said, "Okay." He goes, "Yeah, hey, don't tell anybody, but I think I'm done."
Yeah. We could do this all day with you, man. Appreciate the time. It's been fun kicking around some memories and dusting off a few pieces of video with you. And we're rooting for you in your advisory capacity back in San Diego. You can take the boy out of Aztec land. You cannot take the Aztec out of San Diego. Buddy Black with us on the podcast. Bud, thanks for the time, man.
Thanks, Matty. It's great to be on anytime. I appreciate it. But like I said, I hope I see you out there somewhere, which I assume I will.
Same. That'll do it for this installment of the MLB Network Podcast. Thanks for watching.